the Premier League preview. Welcome back to all you wonderful people. Today, we're going to be talking, of course, Manchester United's injury crisis. We're going to be talking other things as well. Just realised I've got to mute my other computer. Back in a sec. All sorted, guys. All sorted. How is everyone doing today in the chat? Make sure you get all your thoughts in about Manchester United. We got Moz in the chat who got a little bit angry, saying Erik ten Hag needs to be sacked. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying backed. We've got Enoch from Kenya as well. Scott in the chat. Too many fans are quick to blame the manager. And James talking about Martinez's Achilles. Get into the chat, guys. What do you think the real reason why Man United struggled last night? Aiden as well, knocking in here. Cheer us up, mate. What happened last night? A few things, I think, and we can have a little talk about that before we dive into the Premier League. Of course, the Premier League preview. Today, we're going to be focusing on Aston Villa versus Newcastle. There's some stuff I've liked from Unai Emery's Aston Villa. They are one of the form teams in the Premier League, with only Arsenal and Manchester City picking up more points since Unai Emery's appointment. Will it continue? They're the questions we're going to answer today. Of course, Newcastle are racing Manchester United for the top four, so an interesting topic there. We're also going to be looking into a little bit of the Chelsea versus Brighton game. Chelsea in absolute disarray, atrocious versus Real Madrid. Don't look like they're getting their act together. And of course, Brighton are flying under De Zerbi at the moment. And then we'll finish things off talking about the Nottingham Forest versus Manchester United game on Sunday. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about Manchester United, the current situation, what's going on. Of course, United faced Sevilla in the Europa League yesterday evening. I was sat in the TRA, singing some songs, having a great time. Man United flying into a 2-goal lead after just 21 minutes. And then it started to be, a bit of a game of domination. You thought United would score 4, they'd score 5. They created chances, didn't take them. Of course, you had the chance for Anthony, hit the corner of the bar with an absolute cracking shot on 61 minutes. And then United kind of fell apart. But just on Anthony, I think he played really well. One of his best games for United. What I liked about his performance against Sevilla, not only did he get up close and personal with Sevilla's fullback, but I think he opened himself up a lot more to passes, to switches of play. He was better from a creative standpoint, and that's been one of my big concerns with Anthony. It was something that we spoke about on the Premier League review on Monday. Anthony needs to get his head up more, needs to look at the situations before shooting. Too frequently we've seen him cut inside and shoot for United. I thought he was much better with his decision making in terms of the passes, in terms of the when to dribble, when not to dribble, and a really good game overall for Anthony. I think he was one of our best players and was unlucky not to get onto the score sheet. Of course, Marcel Sabitzer, the guy that kind of changed the game from an attacking sense to really well-taken goals. What I like about Marcel Sabitzer is he's not afraid to shoot, and that feels like it's a bit of a concern for some of the other United players at the moment. Too frequently we saw the likes of Jadon Sancho dally on the ball before getting a shot on goal when the opportunity was there. So I thought Marcel Sabitzer was fantastic through the middle, could have got himself a hat-trick as well. Martial drifted off the line well, got a cracking assist from the deep area, creating 2 chances, 1 big chance, of course, the assist for the main man, Marcel Sabitzer. But then the game went away from Manchester United. The substitutions Erik ten Hag made, he made a triple change on 62 minutes, and it completely changed the flow of the match. And I think, I think there's got to be a number of things looking at the situation. It did mess with the game state. It messed with the flow. And it is one of these situations in the modern game where, if you make too many substitutions, you can really kind of cause your team problems. Going from 3 to 5, it feels like people have to make a triple change. You don't have to make a triple change. But I thought United took off all their attacking intent on that, 62 minutes. You're taking off Martial, Fernandes and Jadon Sancho. Of course, we heard that, the referee apparently spoke to Erik ten Hag and said, if Bruno and Anthony commit more fouls, they're more than likely to get sent off. Again, I understand that. But the big thing there, Bruno got booked, which was obviously absolutely ridiculous. earlier on in the game. So he was already going to miss the second leg versus Sevilla. So he's going to have a game off. Why take him off from a perspective of, keeping the control? I thought United were fantastic with Bruno in midfield. Another brilliant performance from a deep lying position from Bruno Fernandes. Sitting next to Casemiro at the pivot with Sabitzer playing higher. I liked his performance. I thought he was very, very good. Grabbed himself an assist. One of only 2 players in the last few seasons that's got over 50 goals and 50 assists. The other, of course, being Lionel Messi in Europe's top 5 leagues. Bruno Fernandes played really well. Dominated. Again, the touches, the creativity, the passes. I thought it was a mistake bringing him off. For that sense, obviously, he can play this weekend against Forest. Then he gets a rest in the Europa League because he's been suspended. That's the situation where I feel like United lost control in the game. And then, you look further, the substitution of Anthony as well, I mentioned before, thought it was one of Anthony's best games. Subbing him off on 81 minutes with the kind of flow of the game where Anthony was the only attacker that United really had that had any threat was a bit of an issue. Of course, you can't quantify for Lisandro Martinez, getting injured, but at the same time, it's a frustration, I think. The Malacia own goal, the Maguire own goal, situations that shouldn't have happened. United should have gone into that second leg 2-0 up in a commanding position. Jumping into the chat, Scott, would it be nice to see Sancho play in Bruno's absence in the middle in the second leg versus Sevilla? Sancho needs something. I thought it was another poor display yesterday. I think he needs to step up once again. Mons in the chat. I would never say that. Just misread the title on my phone. No worries, Mons. We can recover. Aiden, United stopped playing in the second half, for a while now. Can't control games. I think that substitutions change that. And I do think, I think there is blame on Erik ten Hag's head in a sense. He is the tactician. He is making the changes. He's the head coach. He does make the substitutions. But the flip side of that is Man United's squad is nowhere near the level of what it should be. And that's something that we've spoken about many, many times, that this squad is just simply not good enough. When you look at United's injuries, just to read those players off, obviously we'll go through it in a bit further detail later on in the stream in terms of when they're going to come back. But Rashford is out. Garnacho's out. So 2 of your starting left wingers are out. 2 of your explosive attacking players are out. Garnacho made such good impact off the bench for United this season, directly involved in more goals than any other player in the Premier League off the bench. So there's 2 of your key weapons in an attacking sense gone. Now, Varane's out, Martinez out, and Luke Shaw's currently out. The issue is that that's only 5 players, and that has completely disbalanced the entire squad. We've had 4 games of no Casemiro in English football, which has been a huge problem. There's something that needs to be addressed. The United squad is not good enough, and that is what has been built in recent years from the Glazers. It's been built from the director of football that's in here. This squad is utter rubbish, and it's simple as that. We've got a very good starting 11 that's been elevated by Ten Hag's coaching. Apart from that, United really need to work in the transfer market. Players like Pelistri and Anthony Elanga are not ready for coming off the bench and impacting games at this level now. They may be in the future, but they need loan spells. They both need to play football. When you're talking about loan spells and players playing football, Amad Diallo is a cracking example of going on loan, getting football, and then coming back and looking like you could potentially, make it in the United first team. It's something that United need to do a lot more. You look at Amad Diallo's stats this season in the Championship, 11 goals and 2 assists in 32 games, only 22 starts, is super, super impressive. Performance against Hull City in recent weeks, brilliant. 2 goals, 5 chances created, 5 shots, 2 dribbles completed. He's someone that's got to develop, got to go away to come back. But it feels like with Pelistri, with Anthony Elanga, they should, on the development, we're not developing these players right. They should be going on loan this season. But because of the poor building of this squad, they have to be in the first team because there's no one else. And I think both players have got potential. Both players will be good Premier League players, but they need that time to develop. And them sitting on the bench and having 10 minutes in the Europa League or 30 minutes in the Europa League isn't going to help anyone out. My concerns, guys. But we'll talk more on Man United a little bit later on. Guys, get into the chat. Kenya. Dave Kenya from Kenya. Sorry about that. Can we blame Ten Hag? I think Ten Hag takes a little bit of flack from it with the Bruno Fernandes substitution. That was the one that I think deserves a little bit of flack. But at the same time, I think the squad is the bigger problem. I think Ten Hag has been let down by the failings of United over the last 5 years. Simple as that. Really is. Aidan, don't blame Ten Hag for anything that happened last night, by the way. Just one of those bonkers nights. Having a squad depth isn't good enough. Yeah, I agree with that, Aidan, but I also think the Bruno thing is, I think also the 3 substitutions. Too many substitutions upset the rhythm, and that was his call. And one thing that we need to do, right, we criticise managers far too much. As United fans from the period since Fergie. Now we've got a fantastic manager. It's still okay to criticise him. It is still okay. I used to criticise Fergie every single week for his team selections. Some of them were bonkers, but they worked. And he was obviously super successful. But there were still times where you think, that's the wrong call. That's the right call. That's the wrong call. Shouldn't have done that. Lost this game because that. And that's fair. Football is a very difficult game. Nobody is perfect. And Erik ten Hag will have learned from this, which is, a good thing. Scott. Diallo has been unbelievable on loan. He's linking up very well with Jack Clark. I've also thought, Scott, he linked up very, very well with Patrick Roberts as well. And I like players that link up well with other players. It's nice. Thoughts on Gravenberch? Gravenberch would be my, player that I would absolutely go out and buy. I think Gravenberch, as an 8, would be brilliant. And the big thing with this lad, young, he's got to be playing more. He started 1 game in the Bundesliga. Go to Bayern Munich, offer them some cash, offer them some euros, and bring him to Old Trafford, because the talent of Gravenberch is ridiculous. This kid is so good. Love to have him at Old Trafford, really would. Thoughts on the takeover? It is what it is. It will happen when it happens. It's taking too long. It's frustrating. We're all frustrated. The club, as I've mentioned, how they've managed the squad is absolute garbage. So they will need change, and hopefully it'll happen soon. We got to wait. That's it. Just enjoy the football again, guys. That's a big thing. Look, it is frustrating that we drew last night 2-2, with it being 2-0 up. But the big thing is we just need to enjoy where we're at right now, right? We're in a pretty decent position. Marcus Rashford's form of his life. Bruno Fernandes is playing well. Things are working well. Aidan in the chat, would you keep Sabitzer, Dave? So I don't think Sabitzer impressed me as much as I've previously seen him at other clubs before last night. Thought he played really well last night. So if there's more performances like Sabitzer from last night, yes, you keep him. But you have to judge it on that. I don't think his performances pre-last night were good enough. Wouldn't have signed him. But now I think there's a potential start for him to grow into the role at number 10. I think he's played really well in that position. With Christian Eriksen coming back, though, is that going to limit his minutes? I would prefer to buy a Gravenberch or a younger player than sign Sabitzer. But I do like what Sabitzer's doing. I think he's playing well. And as Hydra in the chat saying, Casemiro at 6, Bruno at 8, Sabitzer at 10 worked really well last night for 30 minutes. And it did. It worked really well. Ross, I feel like Kobe Mainoo is a similar style player to Gravenberch, just younger, of course. Ross, I completely agree with you. I do think, though, it is got to be some development there. I think you've got to send him on loan in the Championship. Look how good it's worked out for Amad Diallo. He needed that spell. He needed to sort of become more mature in a sense, and the Championship is very good at doing that. So I'd love to see Kobe Mainoo on loan, Gravenberch signed. Both could play together in the future. Scott, for certain we'll have 3 or 5 players sold to bring in 2 or 3. Yeah, the squad still needs some massive. If I was in charge, I'd be selling a lot of players, to put it that way, but I'm not in charge yet. Highbury local Badger. Can someone do United a favour and get rid of Maguire this season too? Oh, Jesus. That's what I wonder, a different 8 signing rather than Sabitzer. Yeah, that's what I would prefer, to be honest. But if he continues playing well, you can't argue with it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to give these players a really open sphere to kind of pop forward. Ed, thoughts on Kochu from Feyenoord? Weird player. Really good on the ball, good passer, dictates the play, is far too direct for my preference in terms of his passing. Constantly looking for balls over the top and through balls. United have already got a player in Bruno Fernandes that does that, so don't know if it would fit the style. Defensively, question marks. Speed, question marks in terms of physicality in the Premier League, but a talent. he's someone that Brighton should sign when inevitably Moises Caicedo leaves this summer. We're brilliant at Brighton. For United right now, probably not quite there in terms of levels. I think I think you need to be better defensively than he is to play as a 8 in the Premier League. But we'll see. Right, let's quickly jump on to a little Premier League action, then we'll jump back into talking United. What's with Osimhen's injuries? He's been off and on this season, hasn't he? He's had some good spells, then out injured, then some good spells. Should be back for the second leg against Milan. If you watched the game in the Champions League, it was frustrating. Milan absolutely killed the tie. It was a classic Italian performance from Milan. And what's really weird is it's like Milan are Napoli's kryptonite. You look at the recent games between the two sides. Milan won 4-0 in Serie A with 2 goals from Rafa Leao and 1 from Diaz. It feels a bit odd. The game was odd. Like, Napoli weren't Napoli. I've watched Napoli a lot this season. They've been brilliant. The Aaron Gisa red card was an absolute joke if you watched the game. Theo Hernandez absolutely bought it. But Napoli played nowhere near their level. They really didn't. Obviously, without having Osimhen, Spalletti went with Ilmas through the middle. I think he should have gone Raspadori from the start, my preference, but he didn't. So there's a lot to come. Mike Megon was brilliant. Some fantastic saves, kept Milan in the game. So hopefully Osimhen back for the second leg. Hopefully Napoli can do it. That's who we're all supporting in the Champions League, by the way, guys. Ed, Napoli looked broken without Osimhen up top. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's really tough when you lose one of your best players. But I do think Raspadori played well in the Champions League this season. Should have been given the trust, really. Was a little disappointed by Spalletti in that environment. Not a fan of Maguire scapegoating. He came on and did okay. One mistake. Some of it's all his fault. Yeah, I didn't think Maguire played too badly. It just was really unfortunate and a weird own goal. Could he have anticipated it? Maybe. But, it's harsh to blame it on him. I think it was a collective falling apart, to be quite honest, especially in the last 20 minutes of the game after the substitutions. Again, Erik ten Hag made those substitutions. We've got to be open and honest with ourselves. Jumping back into the chat. Thoughts on McAllister of Brighton. We'll talk about Brighton very, very soon, Nish, so stay tuned. So that'll give you my thoughts on their team selection, their performances and so forth. Fourth, Maxi Lopez, great little footballer, FP. Love watching him for Sassuolo. Really good player, technical, dictates to play. He's my type of central midfielder. He really is. Good footballer. Alex is just saying that the AC Milan goalkeeper, one of the most complete keepers. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Fantastic goalkeeper. Right, let's quickly have a chat about Unai Emery's Leicester City. Unai Emery. Could have been Unai Emery's Leicester City. That would have been a great managerial appointment. Aston Villa's Unai Emery. Obviously, Steven Gerrard started the season off as Aston Villa manager, and they were an absolute mess. At the start of the season, they were so poor, open, defensively. But Aston Villa have really turned it round. In fact, Aston Villa, as I mentioned previously, are one of the form sides in the Premier League. In fact, Aston Villa have picked up 35 points in the Premier League in the 17 games under Unai Emery. In that time, only Arsenal with 42 points and Manchester City with 38 have earned more. That is bonkers. The Emery's Villa have earned 35 points. City are on 38, just ahead. In his first 13 games under Steven Gerrard, they earned 12 points, with only Leicester, Wolves and Forest earning fewer. Leicester currently sit in a very, very good position in 6th in the Premier League. It would be absolutely crazy if they qualified for the Europa League. It'd be the first time that Villa are in Europe since 2010-11 season. Unai Emery, of course, has won the Europa League record 4 times with 2 different teams, Villarreal and Sevilla. Impact has been big. The style has been very, very good. From a perspective of what you expect from Unai Emery, he is a classic Spanish 4-4-2 style manager. And it's the interesting point. Obviously, we have a lot of chat about football on this channel in terms of how teams set up, how teams play. And from a tactical perspective, one of the interesting things that I'd like to bring to you guys today is almost a 4-4-2 is more Spanish than the Barcelona 4-3-3. If you do watch La Liga, or you've watched La Liga over the last few years, a lot of the teams that massively overperform their spend and their ability to bring big players to their club have played this kind of 4-4-2 shape. A 4-4-2 that kind of moves to a narrow 4-2-2. Fullback's very important in the final third. Wide midfielders move inside and become two number 10s, and you have two centre forwards, and we can clearly see that with Aston Villa's average positions against Nottingham Forest. We could see the back four made up, the two centre forwards, the midfield being in a very fluid and compact manner, but very central. And I think with what Villa have got, it's a real good use of their skills. You know, Jacob Ramsey's been really good over the last 2 years. You know, very exciting, young English midfielder. And again, we've got to give players, you know, the credit for what they've done at a young age. 21 years old, starting in the Premier League is very, very good. Sensational against Chelsea, grabbed himself an assist. Won 5 out of his 7 tackles. But look at that work rate. You know, his heat map is in his own half in the left back position. Of course, against Chelsea, you know, they played, or should I say they started in a 4-4-2 shape, and then dropped back to a kind of 5 at the back setup in kind of the game. But it's kind of, with Villa, it's very much from a tactical perspective. It is that kind of box midfield. It's the two defensive midfielders. Of course, I've got the team set up for what I expect to happen against Newcastle. But it very much is Ollie Watkins playing last line, Buendia very much roaming, and Ramsey and Traore, or Ramsey and, you know, let's say if Buendia's playing a little deeper, moving inside, creating this narrow shape. And of course, the fullbacks are providing the width in the final third. Moreno and Ashley Young are playing in recent weeks. Classic Emery ball. You know, this is the Sevilla tactics that won the Europa. This is the Villarreal tactics that won the Europa. Very hard working, those outside midfielders in defensive transitions. 4-4 stack is usually there a lot. A lot of pacing behind. Of course, we've seen Unai Emery work wonders with centre forwards before. You know, thinking the likes of Kevin Gramero. Guys, get in the chat your favourite Unai Emery striker. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Carlos Bacca was there. Was at Seville. Get into the chat, guys. I think Kevin Gramero is probably my favourite Emery striker, but there is loads that he's obviously worked with through the years. But I do think this Villa team is very, very geared to playing good football, exciting football, and arguably playing quite direct at times. You know, they do play a lot of balls from centre-back or from goalkeeper to Watkins to then try and win that second ball. It works well. One of the concerns, though, with Emery's Villa, especially in the game against Chelsea, we saw quite a few sort of like square passes being intercepted by Chelsea in the final third. And one thing that we know about Newcastle in the Premier League this season, they are a gegenpressing side. They squeeze, they're aggressive, they win the ball back, and they transition in the on the break really, really well. So that's going to be an interesting kind of setup for this match, to see how, you know, who comes out on top. Against Chelsea. You have Aston Villa won 2-0, but Chelsea amassed an expected goals of 2.16. A lot of chances came through high pressing situations. Mudryk missed 2 big opportunities, both coming from the break. One of the things that we know from Newcastle this season is they are great on the counter-attack. Very, very good in those moments. You know, the likes of, you know, Joelinton, Joe Willock on the break, Isak on the counter. Obviously, Almiron's out injured at the moment, but he's been very, very good. So that's going to be the big threat in this match, is how Villa deal with the ball. I think what United did really well against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final was bypass that press. Don't play out. You know, from goalkeeper, simply play for the second balls. And I think that's where we could see a big overload in favour of Aston Villa, is if they do go over the press with, obviously, you know, you've got Willock, Longstaff, Murphy, Isak and Joelinton. You go over that press, there's going to be a humongous overload in this central area. A 2v1 of 2 attacking midfielders on Bruno Guimaraes and 2 centre forwards up against the back 4 could make those runs, could drop off. I think that is going to be how this game is won a lot. If Villa decide to play out from the back, Newcastle win it. If Villa decide to go long, I generally think we could see a corker, you know, a 3-2, a 4-3. But very impressed by Villa, very impressed by Ollie Watkins, of course, breaking the record for a number of goals scored in consecutive away games for Aston Villa. They've been very, very good. And Ollie Watkins, one of only 3 players to have scored 10-plus goals in the Premier League for 3 consecutive seasons. Watkins this season in terms of his stats on SofaScore. 29 games played, 12 goals, 5 assists, but a very good run of goals and assists in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. He's got 9 goals and an assist. Man's in great form. Man is a fantasy football asset. Get him in. Guys, that's my little analysis on this game. I've been very impressed by Emery's Villa, been very impressed by Newcastle. Eddie Howe, you know my thoughts on that already. Get into the chat your score predictions for this first big game. A guarded viewer, hello, welcome to the chat today. United for life. Newcastle will struggle against Aston Villa, and I think that's big for Man United as well. Be on the same points as Newcastle with the race for the Champions League. Humongous test for United to get that third place finish. That Ashley Young, he must be 40 by now. He's playing quite well recently. He's been exposed a little bit, but pretty good. Ramsey's such a good player from Alex as well. I agree with that. Moz, I liked Krajovac with Emery. Oh, that was so good, wasn't it? It was so good under Emery. Such a shame he made the career moves he did, Krajovac. He was a fantastic footballer. Scott, Newcastle have been flying lately. Moz has given us a 1-1 scoreline. FPL Shamak's going to go for a 2-2. Knight is saying, Emery masterclass, I beg. Hybrid Local Badger. I'm glad we didn't get Mudryk, but big questions, that man. I wonder if Kivor can play left inverted like Zinchenko. No, I don't think he can. Very much a centre-half from what I've seen, or a very defensively minded defensive midfielder. I don't think he's got the same skills as Zinchenko. I think Zinchenko was brilliant last week against Liverpool. I just thought he should have been brought off a little bit faster before he got nutmegged. Honestly, you know, Arteta's got to be a little bit speedier with those changes. We spoke about that previously. What happened to Pau Torres? Aiden, I'd never really rated Pau Torres, to be quite honest. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good Spanish centre-half, but not got the physicality or ability that a modern day top level centre half does in terms of winning duels, and that was my criticism with him. And yeah, he's a good player. Look, he's still a good player, but he's not a top player. More score predictions coming in. United for life is going to go 2-1 Villa. Highbury's Local Badger is going to go 3-0 Villa. That'll be great news for United for the race for the top four. Going to be a big end of season for Villa, for Newcastle. Who would have thought at the start of the season that Villa and Newcastle would be in the top 6? My Premier League predictions are in the absolute mud, but I suppose all of our Premier League predictions are in the mud because it's always very tough to call. So let's move forward. Again, we're going to be talking United's injuries very soon. Now Eric Ten Hag can try and deal with it. Very tough situation right now. But moving to the next game that we're going to kind of discuss, Brighton analysis, Chelsea analysis. But just a quick word on Arsenal. They face West Ham United on Sunday. West Ham, of course, Conference League, against Genk midweek or on Thursday night. Drew 1-1. Danny Ings playing until around 60 minutes, grabbing himself a goal. I think this should be a very comfortable game for Arsenal, in my opinion. Of course, West Ham are always a difficult team to play against, but having that, bit of time to recover and get back up to speed, I think Arsenal will be absolutely sound in this match. I think the overload on the defensive midfield area that Zinchenko is going to allow, coming inside into that inverted position. Rumours are that William Saliba will be back for the game. Gabriel Jesus is in sensational form, 3 goals in his last 2 games. Martinelli is in absolutely unbelievable form, 2 assists and 2 goals in his last 4 games. I do think Arsenal should be absolutely sound with this as well, with Saka. Quite quiet against Leeds, off the bench, quite quiet against Liverpool. For his usual high standards in terms of goals and assists. But I do think Arsenal will fly past West Ham pretty simply. Guys, any Arsenal fans in the chat, get your thoughts in, questions in, but also your score predictions as well, please. Aiden, a Spanish Victor Lindelof. They look like twins. Yeah, it's similar. I think he's a little bit better in the air, but I do agree it's not quite there. Premier League. Enoch in the chat is saying Isak to score 4-0 to Newcastle. Ross is saying, I agree, Villa to grab the W. It's apple crumble season, Dave. You think they'll hold out for the title? I think apple crumble will win the title. Apple crumble is one of the greatest puddings, in my opinion. I'd put it up there with the likes of rice pudding, tiramisu, That'd be my 3 favourites, guys. Get into the chat as well. Your favourite desserts. I want to know what I want to know how you feel about desserts. You know what I'm saying? I want you to be able to tell me what the crack is. Is it a ice cream number? Banoffee pie? Get into the chat, guys. Smash it in. Favourite desserts. Go, go, go. Let's move forward to the other kind of team we want to talk about in the Premier League this season. That is Brighton. They have been simply sublime. We've not given them enough attention in recent weeks on this channel. So we're going to do that right now. I think they are the best team to watch in the league. I genuinely think they are a lot of fun. They have such quality throughout their team. And they've also got a really young, talented manager. It's got all the parts of a brilliant watch. They face Chelsea in the Premier League this week as Frank Lampard takes his second Premier League job, second Premier League game of his second tenure. And I think the big thing with Brighton is how they've developed in recent weeks. And, you've got some absolute talent in there as well, building out a brilliant style of football. When you're looking at the players they've bought as well, Mitoma has been one of the signings of recent years. He is so good. I'm so surprised how good he is. I thought he had talent, but this lad has been literally one of the Premier League players of the season. I put it out there. You combine that with the likes of Evan Ferguson, who's, just 18 years old and directly involved in a whole host of Premier League goals already. You've got the recipe for almost a golden generation for Brighton, which is crazy scary considering, where they were, where they've come to, and how they are growing. So let's take a look at them tactically, how they'll set up for this game against Chelsea. Will be a kind of 4-2-3-1. They very much play with 2 defensive midfielders. So let's get the tactics board out and have a little chat. And also analysing 2 players that are going to be linked with lots of moves in the summer. Alexis McAllister and Caicedo, both brilliant footballers. But Brighton very much set up in a 4-2-3-1, and it's not really a 4-2-3-1 that we kind of expect with kind of a 4-2-3-1 with 2 central midfielders. It's very much 2 defensive midfielders as they basically try and build this kind of box shape. What I love about their tactical flexibility is at times we see it change. At times, when you've got different players being selected, the likes of Tariq Lamptey playing fullback, very much the box is held. But what we see with Gross is we see a lot more fluidity. At times we see Gross moving into the inside right position and Veltman coming in and maintaining that box to deal with the pressure and deal with kind of the play. I love how they use the width as well when they're moving high. At times when the DM is deep, we see like a double overload on the flanks. Again, they're always going to be on the diagonal of each other. Positionally, a very, very good team. Again, those diagonal passes, we've seen how important they are with Arsenal, with Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. It's a really important point. You can receive the ball on the diagonal in a much better position versus you're receiving with back to goal. Little football tactics vibe we're going to go down. So receiving back to goal in this situation, you're receiving it and your orientation is likely to be like that. So you're likely to be looking back down towards your teammates versus on the diagonal, you're going to be playing that same ball again because of the nature of the inverted wingers. If you're likely to play that pass on the diagonal, it could be, the first touch could be easily in front of yourself. You could let it run across your body and you're instantly back in the game versus receiving to the back. And that inherently is why diagonal passes are very, very important in modern positional games. You take the other side, Estepinian as well. Being on the diagonal to Mitoma, it's going to put him in a position where he's going to take a touch on that right foot and instantly go inside. And those small things in football are very, very important. And De Zerbi is a coach of great, great quality. From a tactical level as well, we saw at the start of the season under Graham Potter, who again is one of the best coaches in the Premier League, and I can't wait to see where he goes next because he's going to be on a little revenge tour. But he was playing McAllister as that 6, and Caicedo would play more of a box-to-box role, would play it really well. What we see now, though, after obviously the World Cup, where McAllister starred in this kind of deep-lying role in midfield and then would move into the inside channel, is Caicedo is very much the holding midfielder. He has been so dominant in the Premier League. I've got a little sneaky Frankie de Jong search on Instat, the company we use to get our statistics and do all of our analysis on. My Frankie de Jong stat search is very, very, very poignant on passes, key passes, expected assists, tackles, dual win rate, all of the stats that you want from a defensive midfielder. Caicedo does that all and more. He has that, and then he has the dominance of Casemiro in the air. This kid is brilliant. And wherever he goes in the Premier League, they're getting an absolute star. Whether that's Man United, whether that's Liverpool, whether that's Arsenal. Caicedo is literally one of the best midfielders in the league. And I think any of those clubs, getting a player of his quality, it's different. It's really different gravy. The way that he controls the games, the way that he bosses the midfield zone, it's almost scary. 1.2 key passes per game is very, very good for a deep-lying midfielder. 74 touches of the football per game. 69% of his long passes completed at 2.6 per game. He's completed 54 passes per game. Tackles plus interceptions, 4.6. All these numbers are great. Look at that dual win rate, 58%. Ground duels, 57%. This guy comes out with the ball more than not. And I think his quality is just absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And one of the things that I think he's added recently to his game is his chances created. Was it the Brentford game that the stats were an absolute joke? Anchor in midfield, bossing the show, and creating 6 chances. 92% pass accuracy. 2 out of 2 dribbles completed in the match. Simply phenomenal footballer. One of the best in the Premier League. And you forget that this lad is 21 years old. Man United really messed up not buying Caicedo because he could instantly come into the United team. Players are 8 now. Players are 6 later when Casemiro moves on. So good. Guys, get into the chat. How much is Casemiro? How much is Caicedo worth? Right, let's get back into the desserts. A lot of dessert chat. Mars is going for a tiramisu. That's my personal number 1 in my top 3. Guarded a View is going to go for a simple chocolate cake. Again, not too bad. If I like a simple chocolate cake, though, I quite like a coffee flavour or a orange flavour in there, just to give it a little spice. Aiden in the chat, rhubarb is the best crumble. That is not a bad shout as well. I do love rhubarb crumble. I think crumble as a whole, I'd say, is like a elite level dessert, and whatever you bang in there's always going to be good. Also, sticky toffee pudding and custard, very, very good. Scott's going for apple crumble, homemade apple pie, cherry cheesecake. Interesting. Have I ever tried bread pudding, Dave, from Cass? Yeah, very, very good. My mum does a great bread pudding. Local badge is going to go cheesecake. Yeah, I do enjoy a good cheesecake. Maxibon dessert or just a treat? I'd probably say a treat. Matt, Action's going to go for apple crumble, eaten mess, mango ice cream. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Good stuff, guys. Any more dessert questions or thoughts, do get them into the chat. Local badger saying, love Matoma. What a classy player. Yeah, someone that should be playing for a Liverpool or Man City or Man United or Arsenal, really, like that level. Ross is saying, would you keep a healthy Martial and pick up Evan Ferguson or go all out for Jude? I don't think Jude is going to join Man United, to be quite honest. I think it's City or Real Madrid. I got wind of the Liverpool situation about a week ago from one of my sources, the Tomato Ketchup. Heard there was a little discontent about them. Then I've heard stuff that there's people within City or people that are around City, maybe sponsors, believe Jude Bellingham's going City. And again, I think he's a brilliant player. We've got videos on the channel about how he could fit in. Go and check it out, Statman Dave YouTube channel. I think he's absolutely fantastic as a footballer. Brilliant. Could develop so well under Erik ten Hag. I generally think from a development perspective, either City or United has got to be the place for Jude. For his development and for his growth, I think would be brilliant. But saying that, look, it is what it is, and we move on. I would like to see the likes of Caicedo, McAllister. Both of those two players are brilliant footballers. They really are. Top quality central midfield players that can play multiple roles in midfield. McAllister's got that ability to win the duels, to be aggressive, to squeeze, to dominate the final third, and again something United could do with. So I think both of those players are very, very good. And I think the big thing with Jude as well, there's other players that are like Jude. Like Jude is quite individualistic in a sense, unique in a sense of he's got it at such a young age. But you look at Gravenberch, similar profile. there's other players with similar profiles where they're very good ball carriers, that are technically good, that have got a great eye for a goal. Like, there's other players out there. I think Gravenberch would be my preference over Jude right now just because of the cost. United have got a lot to work on. Need to be getting good deals in there. I think Kane would be one that I'd splash the cash for this summer to instantly get United's competitiveness up. That'd be the number one. And I've changed my opinions on that as the seasons progressed. But I do think now Kane with United, absolutely perfect in terms of the style. Martial's such a difficult one to talk about because he's obviously very, very good, but there's something about him where it's just not worked out. It's tough. It's a tough one because he was brilliant yesterday. So how that happens, I don't know. You've got to make the call, really. I think you've probably got to sell him. If I'm doing a brutal director of football decision, yeah, he's gone. Just because he's not reliable. And that's such an important thing at the top level. Reliability. Why Bruno, why Rashford been so important for United over the last few years. Reliability. Gravenberch is quality. Why would buy and sell? He's only played one Bundesliga game this season. So, they've got the likes of Konrad Laimer joining in the summer. Aiden, City would kill the vibes for him. Stay at Dortmund one more year. Yeah, I do think Dortmund one more year would be good. Martial yesterday played like Kane, dropping deep to receive and creating goals. Hydra, absolutely. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. It's just the injuries. That's the problem. I think his ability as a footballer, immense. You need the durability. You're never going to score 30 goals in a season if you don't play 30 games. It's as simple as that, which is really tough to say. But I think he's a great player. But is he reliable? McAllister would be a great signing for United. I think his role that he plays for Brighton is very, very good. The kind of box they create in midfield as well as in defence is kind of why they dominate. And with Evan Ferguson, one of the nice things that De Zerbi said about him is he can play at that kind of number 9, number 10 role. Look, De Zerbi would be such a good boss in the long term for Manchester United. Same with Julian Nagelsmann, but obviously we've got Big Eric at the moment. That'd be great. But the box they create to progress the play, to link through, it all comes through the central midfield, and it's just so, so good. Obviously, the wide players are kind of the strikers. We're in a very modern football position right now where Mitoma and March are basically the two leading goal scorers and the guys that put all the ball in the back of net. Love it. De Zerbi, what a coach. And the bad thing this week, of course, for any Chelsea fans is they're playing Chelsea this week with Frank Lampard as manager that couldn't be further from the polar opposite of what De Zerbi is in terms of the tactical side. You're just not getting any level at the moment out of Chelsea. The Real Madrid game midweek, they were so, so poor. The build-up to the Chilwell red card with Cucurella jumping out of position, then leaving a huge space. Chilwell's got to come in and take him out, otherwise it's a guaranteed goal. It's frustrating to watch Chelsea, and it's frustrating to watch my main man, Enzo Fernandez. I love Enzo Fernandez. He's so good at football. But at the moment, he's playing for a team that's just not getting the best out of his quality. He's a player that could dominate. You put Enzo Fernandez in the Brighton team, you have one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. If you put Enzo Fernandez into that little slot where Pascal Gross is playing, Enzo Fernandez becomes one of the best players in the league. And he already is up there with the best players in the league. Dominates the ball. Has been Chelsea's best player by a country mile since he joined. And the frustration for Chelsea fans in the chat, is their ability to finish off chances. The amount of chances we see week after week missed is just crazy. Independent of who it is, Sterling, Joao Felix, Mudryk, Havertz, there's a real lack of finishing there. Something that needs to change. They need to bring someone in. They need a Benny McCarthy. They need to bring someone in to help them finish chances because they struggle massively. Joao Felix has got all the talent in the world. Brilliant footballer to watch. I love watching him. He struggles to score goals and get assists, and that is his job. 120 million quid to Atletico, and he's regressed from an attacking sense. Whether that move was correct for him, absolutely not, but it happened. He needs to step back up. Again, missing big chances, not scoring when he should score, and that should be the story for this game. I think Brighton have shown how good they are from a clinical perspective, especially someone like Mitoma. I think Mitoma this game after the issues with the Premier League last week. Looking at the statistics from it, the PGMOL have offered Brighton the third apology of the season for incorrect decisions. No team have had more official apologies for poor officiating this season. Some of the officiating last week was crazy. For my fantasy team, sensational. But for Brighton, awful officiating in there. And I think that's going to be one of the situations. I do believe Matoma and Solly Marsh, both of those two guys, going to be vitally important for this game. Both in great form, both in these new attacking positions. I think Chelsea have got a real tough game on their hands this week. I think it's going to be a Brighton victory, and I think goals will come from the wide players. Guys, get into the chat. Score predictions, please, and I'll jump back into the chat right now. Todd Bowley, do you think Bowley will sell the club if in 2 to 3 years it all falls apart? Well, he needs to sell some players first, doesn't he? Apparently, there's going to be 8 players binned in the summer. Bet Enzo were wishing he'd signed for Madrid. Perfect Cruz replacement. Absolutely. Wasn't Cruz good as well for Madrid midweek? Enzo's going to Chelsea is a very bad decision. Should have waited. He would be so good at Eric Ten Hag's Man United. Absolutely. Just say it, Dave. Chelsea are poor. Chelsea are poor. Statistically, they are very, very poor. No player is at double figures for the season. Kai Havertz is a top scorer with 9 goals in all competitions, who hasn't scored in the last 4 games in all appearances. Chelsea's lack of a real goal threat is underlined by their output compared to XG. Chelsea have only scored 29 goals in the Premier League from an expected goals of 42. That's a minus 13. They should have scored 13 more goals this season if they were finishing at an average rate. Absolutely garbage. They are garbage, Chelsea, this season. I feel for Chelsea fans, I really do. The club is in a really weird spot right now. The managers that they've let go, Tuchel and Graham Potter, I know that the fans didn't get on with Graham Potter, but to replace him with Frank Lampard, it's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. Highbury local Badger. Chelsea needed a real manager. Big mistake getting rid of Tuchel. Never understand the logic to that. The issue with that, it combines with their squad that they built. So Chelsea, over the years, have been a team that they want to win now. That's what they've been. They're a win now team, and their fans accept that. They have cycles. They bring players in. They have good top quality, like top managers. They have players for the now. Chelsea's issue is they've just bought loads of young players. That goes completely against what Chelsea's been in the last 20 years in the Premier League. And the fans are struggling with it. The fans are struggling with the youth, the inconsistencies of youth, and the inconsistencies of, performances in front of goal. Combined with a young manager in Graham Potter, don't know. Coach Graham should still be in a job, in my opinion. But, that would be at a club that they've signed youth, they get a young coach, they let him have the time to develop. Chelsea's just not that. So that's the wrong idea that Todd Bowley's gone with, and it's going to be difficult for him to get to that point. It's going to be really tough. But they're my thoughts, guys. They're my thoughts. Get your score predictions in. Scott in the chat with a great stat. Ireland scored 45 goals in all comps. Chelsea have scored 41. Absolutely rubbish. The thing with Chelsea is that it takes years to establish yourself at the top. You can't just hop back and title challenge next year. Looks like an NFL draw. That's quite a nice point as well. They're just a really odd squad. I generally think it's, from a longevity perspective, similar to what Arsenal did. We've seen how well Arsenal have done this season in Premier League. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that Arsenal go on to win the league. We've seen that their youth has been amazing in terms of the spark, but they've struggled a few years to get that right. So Chelsea are going to take a bit of time to do that. But get your score predictions in. I'm going to go for maybe the similar scoreline as the return fixture. You remember this year that De Zerbi has already schooled Chelsea. They won 4-1 in the reverse fixture. Absolutely battered Chelsea. Really, really did. Pascal Gross, 2 own goals, and a Leandro Trossard goal gave them the victory. Trossard played really well at false 9 in that game, if you remember. Really, really good. Bowley is playing FIFA 23 with Chelsea. But then sacking his manager, isn't he? At the wrong time. Right, there's a little bit of Premier League action for you. Any other games, do get into the comments if you want to talk about those. But let's now move on to the big one. Right, it's now time to... Right now? Just jump into the chat. Let's have a look. I wonder if Arsenal can survive the summer. If City comes knocking, plus 140 million for Saka, can Kromsky say no? I think they could say no. You don't want to sell someone like Saka, do you? But anyway. Nottingham Forest versus Manchester United. Big game in the Premier League this season as Manchester United look to guarantee their Champions League qualification after a pretty poor performance against Sevilla in the Europa League in the last 20 minutes of the game. Dominated the proceedings, but poor in the last bit. Nottingham Forest will provide a little bit of a challenge for Manchester United with the amount of games that we've seen United play in recent weeks. That's not going to stop. Sevilla and Brighton next week for United in the next 7 days of football. But I think one of the big things with this match is how both teams have played this season. United have faced Forest twice in the cup competitions. In terms of the away game, Man United won 3-0. One of United's best performances of the season. One of the humongous concerns, though, for United right now is the injury list. It is absolutely crazy how many players Manchester United have lost this season down to injuries, but also, they've been unlucky in terms of the timings. Right now, Man United, to build their kind of best 11, right now, we'll have a look at that in a sense of the players that are out. So if we look at United's best team of this season, you probably go for a kind of the 4-2-3-1, 4-1-4-1-3-8 role. Eriksen at number 10. We'll talk a little bit more why I think Eriksen at number 10 is better than Bruno at number 10 as we go on. But in terms of the setup, you're looking at Marcus Rashford out injured. His replacement, Alejandro Garnacho, out injured. In terms of centre-backs out right now, Rafael Varane out injured. Lisandro Martinez also out injured. Luke Shaw is just coming back for injury and probably will deputise at left centre half. Of course, Luke Shaw has done really well when he's coming at left centre back and arguably looks like a really good position for him. But on top of that, you've got Anthony Martial who's been in and out of the team this season, which is a real concern for Manchester United. In terms of those injury updates, let's dive into the injury updates right now. Been scouring news to find out the injury updates. Of course, United's injury list at the moment. Rashford, Varane, Martinez, Donny van de Beek, Alejandro Garnacho and Luke Shaw. So some injury updates on the likes of Lisandro Martinez. The injury is not as bad as first feared. When he went down against Sevilla, there was concerns that he'd snapped his Achilles. That would have been about 12 months injured. That would have been a big rehabilitation period. That would have affected his ability to sprint off the line. But according to TYC Sport, so they are an Argentine news station, their reporter Gaston Edul, who worked very closely with the Argentine national team during the World Cup, has issued a little bit of a small update on Martinez's condition. He tweeted on Thursday night, Lisandro is not going to have any more studies today. That, of course, was the game of the day. Tomorrow, he'll know what he has. The Achilles tendon has been ruled out. Of course, great news. He left on crutches, and it could be the 5th metatarsal, and the outlook is better than expected, which is great news. Martinez is not going to be out for 12 months, but he will miss the rest of the season. If he has a 5th metatarsal, that'll take about 8 weeks for that to be healed, which means out for the season. Really sad times. He's been brilliant for United. The way that he commands the ball, the way that the calmness, the movement off the ball. One of the things I like when he moves high, receives. You've got great fluidity in United's attack, receiving in that midfield line and then playing forward. He's so composed on the ball. He's so aggressive. He's been absolutely brilliant for Manchester United. But unfortunately, he'll be out for the rest of the season. Luke Shaw has missed a few weeks. Another player out injured at the moment, but should be back for the game against Nottingham Forest. The reason for his injury, of course, a thigh injury or hamstring injury. Could be back for Sunday. 2 sessions to go. He's going to have a late fitness test. Him coming back, I think, is going to be vitally important. We know how much Erik ten Hag likes a left footer as a left centre-back to open up passing angles with the left foot into all types of different positions. We've seen Luke Shaw play really well as a centre-back in games as well. I'll take you back to a match of this season where he was absolutely brilliant. That came, of course, against Manchester City in the 2-1 win in the Premier League. Brilliant performance from Luke Shaw in that left centre-back position. Just absolutely outstanding. Dealt with Haaland to great effect. In the game, made 6 clearances, completed 100% of his tackles, or 100% of his tackles. Just a really good, dominant performance, covering at left-back when needed. Thought he played really well, one of his best performances of the season. So I'm gutted that Martinez is injured, but Luke Shaw come in, providing that base could be quite good in the short to long term, providing that kind of ball-playing option as a left centre-back, which means Malacia will get more game time, needs to work on small parts of his game, concentration, a big one, too many little mistakes in there, and I think providing that overlap and crossing at certain times needs to be stepped up as well. But moving to the other injuries, of course, Marcus Rashford is out for this weekend, but should be back for Seville. I think that gives United a great option there. Again, United are going to be without Bruno Fernandes in that game. So Marcel Sabitzer will probably come into that number 10 position. Eriksen deep, kind of that 4-2-3-1, 4-1-4-1 shape. We'll see Eriksen moving high and deep. So we're not in too much of a bad position. Of course, Maguire will come in for Rafael Varane in the sort of right centre-back position as well. So United are still there. It's obviously super frustrating to see players out injured. And some of the tackles that United have had, the tackle on Eriksen from Andy Carroll, the tackle on Garnacho, which injured him as well. Super frustrating. But United should be okay. But the big thing is Erik ten Hag has got to be backed in the summer. The bench that we saw against Seville, simply not good enough. Simply not at the level that United are aspiring to. In the start of for next season, United will have Amad Diallo back into the squad, which I think is going to be a big boost for that right attacking position. He's been great in the Championship, and he gives United that kind of similar dynamic element of Anthony, left-footed right attacker, will check inside, will play in the inside channels, great link play with his teammates, and I think that's going to be a massive bonus for Manchester United. But that's just one player, right? That's one player of, a number of players that need to really come into the squad. Amad coming back from loan will be a massive boost for Man United, considering how well he's done in his development, and he can come in onto that right-hand side. But there's a lot more, positions that United need to potentially recruit for. I think going into next season, maybe the left-hand side's probably covered as well with Garnacho, with Marcus Rashford. I think at number 10, if Sabitzer continues his good run of form, absolutely sign him up as a backup number 10. But also Jadon Sancho in that position we've seen. We can also see Bruno Fernandes in there. But looking at the potential, downfall at centre-half as well, I think a right-sided centre-back is definitely needed. Maybe even looking for getting 2 central midfielders as well, because we saw that loss of control with Man United, with Casemiro being out. Erik ten Hag needs to be backed 100%. And that's something that's been highlighted by this injuries. We've had 5 injuries. Everything's gone up in the air. So there's a big thing for Manchester United going into it. Amad coming back is going to be good, but there's got to be development of the squad. United need to back the manager that's, basically had the best run of any Man United manager since Fergie. It has to happen. In terms of the game against Nottingham Forest, as we mentioned, Manchester United need to use the width really, really well. I take you back to the League Cup game. One of Anthony's best performances, that great link-up play with Bruno Fernandes and Weghorst in the second half. Maybe a little interchange of 3 passes, third-man run. Just missed the chance, but I thought he played really, really well. And it was that duality in a sense of sometimes he holds the width too much, and we saw him play the inside channel a lot better against Nottingham Forest with Wan-Bissaka providing the overlap. I think that type of move needs to happen at the weekend with Diogo Dalot in there. I think that's going to be a massive, bonus for United in those positions. Having the width and having that ability to break. I had him playing a lot more narrow at the City ground, receiving a lot of passes in this central area, and then looking to combine, looking to play and make that third man run, allowing space for Diogo Dalot to attack. I'd like to see that. Marcus Rashford was brilliant. You remember the goal that he scored in the League Cup against Nottingham Forest, carrying from his own half, dribbling, passing, taking players on. That's what you need to do. This Forest team is super narrow. It defends in a very narrow manner, in a narrow kind of 4-2 diamond or a narrow 4-3-3 shape. You can get at the fullbacks massively. So having, Marcus Rashford fit would have been absolutely ideal. Not going to be there. So maybe having, Anthony Martial drifting out into that wide area a bit to get on the ball in those areas. You potentially could see Marcel Sabitzer stay with in the attacking midfield position to move out there, but maybe having that combination play of Martial drifting wide and Sancho attacking that central space in the transition, receiving to Martial and Martial carrying directly at the opponent. We know that Martial's very, very good at cutting in from those positions. So I think that's a real tactical position United need to attack. Rashford did it so well in the League Cup game in that wide area. And it allowed United to go through. I think finally with Bruno Fernandes as well, superb in the League Cup game. Dropped deep at times, 4 shots, 3 chances created. Really good goal, arriving late in an attacking move. That's another thing against this Forest team. I think runners from the second line, as Pep Blinders calls it, or from midfield, is going to be vitally important for United to score goals. And that comes from Bruno from deep, if that's the case of what Erik ten Hag doing, or Marcel Sabitzer attacking the space with Anthony Martial in the wide area. That's another way to get at Forest. Take them out wide, dribble at the fullbacks, runners in the box in midfield, and it should simply be a win for Manchester United. I'm very, very confident in this match. Again, it's going to be a rotated United team. Could see the likes of Weghorst and Jadon Sancho come in, but I think United at the moment are in a good place. When they've got the first teamers there, they're in a good place. It's the depth that really needs to be addressed from Erik ten Hag. Get your score predictions into the comments right now. I've been Statman Dave, of course. Check out SofaScore and all that good stuff. Like the video and all that good stuff. Let's dive back into the comments, guys. I realised that was a loss of chat in there. Gibbs White is awesome. Gibbs White has been one of Forest's best players this season when he's in form. He really dominates games. Was great against Wolverhampton Wanderers, playing as kind of that false 9 position, 3 shots in the game. 6 chances created, won 8 of his 12 duels. He has got a lot of talent, has developed really nicely over the last year, so he's a big, big threat. But also, Brennan Johnson. Love Brennan Johnson. His intensity on the right-hand side is very, very good. If I'm Man United, I'm looking at Brennan Johnson potentially in the summer. I think he's shown really, really good adaptation to the Premier League. He's the top scorer for Forest with 8 goals and 2 assists in 30 games in the Premier League. Again, playing for a team that doesn't get much of the ball. Is quite tough, but he's made impact in big games. 2-2 draw against Everton. He's been fantastic from an attacking position. I would really like to see him signed. And I think, United would be a great place for Brennan Johnson. I really do. United for life. Dave, do you think it's a good idea to play Casemiro as a centre-back? Ten Hag played him there twice before. No, because we've only got 1-6, and that's Casemiro. So, could be a good suggestion, but I do think Casemiro in midfield is the one. Aiden, now then Dave, can Shaw come in to play left centre-back for certain games? I think he plays left centre-back for the rest of the season. I hope. Fingers crossed. Martial will get 75 plus. Yes, I think that will be the development of his return from injury. It's funny, we won't get back to be selling club until September, I hope not. A guarded view. 5th metatarsal is possibly 1.5 to 3 months out injured. Watch De Zerbi double that score against Lamps, 8-1. Could be interesting. But I do think Man United are in a good position against Forest. Forest are quite narrow. United's biggest strength is out wide. So I think that'll be where they could really get at Nottingham Forest with, Anthony, with Martial pulling wide. Even playing Martial wide left. Weghorst as a striker, I wouldn't be against that. Changing it round and having Weghorst in the central position, Martial wide left. I'd quite like to see that, actually. This is probably my preferred setup for Manchester United. Just because of like I mentioned, the dribbling. Really catch him out. Crofton Stout. Hey, Dave, loved your channel. Do you think Bruno could stay further back and put Eriksen at 10? That's exactly what I want to see long term. Is Bruno deep, Eriksen high. Naturally, more attack in the right channel. Naturally, Bruno going more left. That would be absolutely perfect. We did a video on the Clips channel that not many people have seen, so make sure you go and check that out. We dive into that exact analysis on the Clips channel. David, I find Anthony limited. Put a good performance against Forest again, but on the right wing, he struggles to cut inside because he's got no right foot. Love to see Sancho on the right wing. David, I think the performances in recent weeks for Anthony have been very good. Stretching the pitch and stretching the opposition against Everton, running in behind was good. Decision-making in the final third, poor. Thought his decision-making against Sevilla was very, very good. Hit the bar. I think Anthony is going to grow. He's going to develop. It's going to be absolutely great. Alex, a bit's a false 9. Okay. I like that. Dave, could you do a director of football United summer clear-out, please? 9 or 13 players move all alone. Well, Ada, we could bang that on the Clips channel. So on this channel, sorry. So we'll do that very, very soon. I do think there's a lot of development to come from Anthony. Look, David, I think one of the big things you've got to remember with Anthony, simple fact, he's 23 years old. Remember what the criticism that Rashford got at 23. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy, the criticism Rashford got at 23. Look at him this season. Anthony is the same. He's 23 years old. He has got so much good parts of his game. Yesterday, he went on the outside, didn't he? So that lack of right foot thing is fine. When you can go on the outside like he can. He's doing that more, creating more. Some good opportunities yesterday I thought he created. And hit the bar. I thought it was a good performance. Preferred foot left. Not that many left-footed attackers in the world of football. Give Anthony time. Support him. See too many grumblings at Old Trafford as well when he gets the ball. Got no right foot. Just give him time. Give the boy some time. That's what I'd say anyway. Sancho false 9. I'd quite like to see that as well. But yeah, I think Weghorst up there, Martial wide left would be my preferred strategy for this game. Remember, Weghorst did score against Forest in the League Cup at the City Ground. Guys, that's probably been that for today. Thanks for everybody that's dropped down and got involved with the chat. Moz saying Anthony's so angry. I think Ten Hag is so overwhelmed with huge issues that Anthony's kind of left on his own. And we're much better with Anthony in the side. We're tactically so much better with Anthony in the side. For sure. Maybe I'll do a little video on Anthony as well. But yeah, make sure we smash the like button. Again, get your score prediction in for this game. Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Anthony did an outside and left foot cross too. More of that, lad. He's got the character to play for United. Importantly, Aiden, spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. Santini and Ancho time, I think. Us lefties built differently, absolutely, Ross. You got an extra, Ross, you're actually worth an extra 10 million just because you're left-footed, I would say, in there. But yeah, score predictions, bang them in. And that's probably that for today, guys. I'm on Saturday Social tomorrow on Sky Sports. If you want to hear some more Statman Dave analysis and murmurings, we're talking about Liverpool, 5 signings for the summer. We're also looking at the best Champions League players this season. Alex in the chat going to go 3-1 to Manchester United in there. I'm going to go 3-0. Clean sheet FC. Oh, look at that. Lisandro Martinez, what a performance against Nottingham Forest. 119 touches, 95 passes completed at a 92% accuracy. 5 out of his 6 tackles won, 4 clearances, a block and interception. I'm going to miss the little fella. I really am. He's everything I want in a United player. He really is. 1-0 struggling slow game from Mars. We have struggled a little bit following the Europa League. Ross, my value is now 10 million and £10. It's good value, that. It's great value. Great value. But big GG's in the chat, guys. We'll see you all very, very soon on the Statman Dave Clips channel and the main channel and on Instagram, on TikTok, all that good stuff. Highbury, local badge is going to go 4-1 United. The general will be missed. There'll be a big miss. And on that note, big GG's in the chat to everyone. Ross going 3-0 as well. What do you think about our pass completion rate last night, Dave? I thought it was very good when we were on top. For sure. I thought it was very, very bad after 70 minutes. What's the pass completion statistics? 79%, so could be better. For sure. Could be better. And on that note, GG's in the chat. Make sure you tell your pals about the stream and all the analysis we've done. And we'll see you very, very soon. Monday, in fact.